G'day and welcome to the grand final edition of the Bendigo Bank MCDFNL Senior Footy Grand Final Show. My name's Yeendy. I'm joined by Mitch, the Bendigo Bank MCDFNL Operations Manager. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks for having me, Yeendy. Good to be back again.
Now the long season comes to a big crescendo this weekend, but we couldn't have got there without a very successful Berry Powell medal night on Monday night. A big night it was out there over at the Maryborough Highland Society. A fantastic occasion.
Yeah, it was a great night and a great way to celebrate the individual successes for the year, and obviously a great deal of talent there that got awarded deservingly, and a great night had by all.
How good's Carisbrook looking? It was basically Carisbrook's night where they ended up winning both the senior footy and netball awards. They've won stacks of other awards throughout the night. Just highlights such a great season at the club this year.
Yeah, that's right. They've had a wonderful season across football and netball, and that's obvious by the number of sides they've got playing this weekend, obviously in the grand final. But there was a lot of other clubs that were represented on the night as well, and a lot of other good players from other clubs that managed to get some good awards. Exactly,
certainly well spread amongst numerous other clubs in what was probably one of the best nights of on the calendar. It's something everyone looks forward to every week, mate, and it certainly showed in the numbers, and it's certainly fantastic. But we started the preparation for the grand final last weekend with preliminary finals and a couple of big games to set up what will be a cracking grand final, and we'll start with Carisbrook and Navarre, a battle between the 2017 grand finalists.
Yeah, look, I thought we might have had a better contest on our hands, to be honest. But look, it was probably close to quarter time. I think it was only a few points there, and unfortunately for Navarre, they fell away a bit, and they just couldn't keep that intensity up. Obviously, they were doing their best, and they came out firing their first quarter, but they just couldn't maintain that for the four quarters and keep up with Carisbrook.
Well, they kicked 4 straight in the first term and a 1-goal-6 for the remainder of the game. But if anything, I mean, that shows just how Carisbrook are placed. They certainly got themselves together at quarter time and came out and put the game away.
Yeah, that's right. And it probably really all happened in the second quarter where, Carisbrook 4 goals, 10 to 1 point in that second quarter. We thought that we'd probably go over here. And you just think if they kicked straight, it could have been even worse. But look, Navarre had a good season. I think they did very well to get to the prelim this year, given the change from their sides from last year. But Carisbrook just too strong on the day.
Yeah, and it was probably a team that we were almost expecting to make a grand final from earlier on the year. Such was the other trend they set. The other game, which was on the Sunday, it was Natte Bealiba, too good for Harcourt, winning that one by 64 points. Ultimately, this sets up the battle between the top two sides in the competition effectively all year. But Harcourt, good on them for making a prelim.
Yeah, good on Harcourt. They were a bit hit and miss during the finals, you could probably say, but look, Natte too strong. They came out of the blocks and they just looked very positive for the whole game there, Natte. And if anyone's going to challenge Carisbrook this year, I think it's Natte. I'm not sure if Harcourt got through. We might have seen a repeat of what happened earlier in the finals, and but this time around, I don't think it'll happen to Natte. I think Natte will put up a good fight, and they might even get the win on the weekend.
I think in the context of the grand final, that was probably the result that the competition needed, because if Natte were going to win, and we've spoken about it on the show, they've been winning games of football, but their second half of the season, they haven't been putting sides to the sword like they had in the first half of the year that made them such a big threat. So to come out and win by 10 goals in such a high-stakes game against an opposition that were hungry and starving for success, that is absolutely fantastic for that club.
Yeah, absolutely, and they look very serious. They've hit some great form, and that shows that on the weekend. So hopefully they can take it up to Carisbrook this week, and I'm sure they will.
Now let's talk up this week's grand final, because it is going to be absolutely massive. We've got the coach of the year, AFL Goldfields coach of the year for MCDFNL, Jared Bateson, lining up for the Swans. A very, very good coach in his own right, and all his credentials is fantastic. But he's up against the Carisbrook side that are fresh off the premiership, with Luke Treacy doing great things, Jackson Bowen doing some great things. We're really starting to see a sort of a dream matchup here, and I also understand that Carisbrook, like all sides at this time of year, they're probably carrying a few niggles as well. This could be very interesting.
Yeah, I think probably most sides at this time of year have probably got a few little bits and pieces going on, but both very strong sides expected to take the field on the weekend. As we touched on before, both very deserving sides, clearly the two standout sides for the season. Both obviously just losing the one game for the year. Natte obviously beating Carisbrook in round 5. That was by 22 points. Natte's only lost to Harcourt in round 12. 43 points there, but it just shows that they turned that around on the weekend and they managed to almost 100 point turnaround.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Which is huge. So, look, going to be hard, I think, for Natte. Look, Carisbrook's average winning margin, 125 points this year, which is just enormous. They only concede, on average, 28.7 points each for their games this year. So, don't know how they're going to stop that.
Yeah, well, it is certainly a big challenge for the Swans, but I guess the question is, how much does that win earlier on in the season play psychologically? And that day, Carisbrook kicked, was it 4 goals, 17 or something to that effect?
4 goals, 24.
24.
Yeah.
And they kicked 4 goals, 10 in the second term last week. So their kicking radar hasn't necessarily been accurate. Now, the Swans traditionally have been pretty accurate in front of goals, and that was highlighted in the first meeting they had was, I think, 11 goals, 4. So if they can sort of keep that form going, it's certainly going to fall in their advantage.
Yeah, if you just look at last time they played, Natte actually kicked the first 7 goals of the game, which was enormous. And
it was a shock at the time too.
It was, yeah. And look, yeah, Carisbrook kicking the 24 points. Some would say it might have been Natte's pressure. Obviously, they were inaccurate as well. It's probably a bit of a mix of both. But if Natte can keep that up this week, they might be a chance of, doing the same again and keeping Carisbrook to a lower score than they've been kicking all year. Now,
I think one of the great devastations of having this grand final this year is it goes down to the ruck. And I haven't seen much of the great man play when he was around last year, but Taylor Strawn, gun ruckman for the Swans last year. If he was still at the club this year, I would love nothing more as a hardcore footy fan to see Taylor Strawn and Jackson Bowen go head to head in the ruck, and seeing these two titans go at it. I think that would have been a fantastic sight. Unfortunately, it's not to be. But look, at the end of the day, we still know Jacko, who missed the grand final last year. I think personally he'd probably have a fair bit to atone for as well. He can't help it with injury, but he'd be really keen to step it up and make amends for not playing.
Yeah, absolutely. He would have been devastated last year not being able to play in that game, and obviously he's got the chance here. He's got a bit of a niggle at the moment, but he should be able to get up hopefully and play. Look, Natte's ruckman, Lockie Cameron, I believe plays in the ruck a bit, and he's polled very well in the Berry Power this year, so he's been a great player all season, and he'll be a good contest. And of course for Carisbrook, you've got Harry Butler as well that comes up and plays in the ruck every now and again too. So he's a good young player and rookie of the year as well, which is quite good. So yeah, it should be a good battle in the ruck, I think.
Yeah, and speaking of Harry Butler, we were given the hard word that his appearance at Berry Power was he wasn't there because he was doing his homework. So he's a good boy, doing the right things. That's there, right. And so we know his sister's doing great things with female footy as well. So it's good to see some of these young guns coming through. Ash Manari's probably going to be a bit of a question mark. He only kicked 1 goal last week. I hear he's sort of carrying a lot of plays, carrying a little bit of a niggling injury, but you only probably need him to run between that sort of 0 to 25 mark and put the ball in his area, and he'll do great things.
Yeah, that's right. And look, if Ash isn't firing, then they've got Cunningham up there as well. He's kicked 72 goals for the year, and they've got a very potent forward line. And as I said, if one's not playing well, they've got another one there that's just going to do the job for her anyway.
Meanwhile, at the other end, we've got Emmett Smith. I've seen him play a couple of times. The way he uses his body, he's not your tall, standout full forward, but his size and strength and ability is really impressive. And when he takes the marks, takes strong marks, he puts his body into it, and he's very accurate in front of goals as well. He's one of those players that kicks you 3 to 4 to 5 goals, and they're going to need a bit more input from players like him on the day.
Yeah, exactly right. Players like Keegan Ross, Will Collicoat, and you've got the guys like Jai and Zach Mortlock up there as well that can take a good mark and do some damage up forward for them. So, look, Natte's forward line, I think it almost matches what Carisbrook's Power's got up there, and they've got a lot of good small players up there as well that can do the job for them too.
Probably what that highlights too, mate, is that definitely the midfield is going to be crucial. What happens in the centre, and you're highlighted there with Cameron there for from the Swans, and then you've got Bowen who is a league best and fairest winner last year. What happens there is going to be really crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And then you throw in Matt Bilton, obviously the 2018 Berry Power medalist.
Oh, mouth-watering stuff there.
Who's been unreal this year. And look, they've got Aidan George and Lockie Edwards in there as well in that midfield for Carisbrook. So I think Carisbrook's probably got the midfield win over Natte here. But yeah, look, Natte's got some fire as well. As you touched on before, Jared Bateson, who's obviously the AFL Goldfields Coach of the Year. Not many picked that side would beat Carisbrook early in the year, and what comes down to how that side was coached on the day. As we touched on, Lockie Cameron in the ruck. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting battle in the middle.
When these two teams did meet, we know weather elements did play a role. Now, fast tracking in the DeLorean, jumping ahead to Saturday, we're going to see some sort of slippery conditions, a bit of moisture around the ground, a bit of precipitation, as Macca from AFL Goldfields would often say on the radio. This might actually suit the Swans too, because they do play quite well when the conditions are a little bit wet, and if we're going to see the game sort of tighten up a little bit, then deny that run that Carisbrook do have through the midfield. I think that will we're looking at ways to sort of bridge that gap.
Yeah, that's right. I think they acknowledge that, look, Carisbrook's probably been the standout side all year. Natte's been fantastic, but they'll be hoping for things like the weather and things like that to work in their favour. Whether they need it to, I still think Natte's best can match it if Carisbrook's not playing their best footy. And looking at Carisbrook, we found a statistic there from that Rowdy's actually put together for us. That 18 of the 22 Carisbrook players from last year that played in the Premiership are available for selection this week, and you know how good that side was. Oh,
that was fantastic, and they were missing one big gun out of that team with Jackson Bowen being unavailable. You slot him into that team. We thought last year's lineup against a powerhouse Navarre side was good. That just makes it so much better, doesn't it?
That's right. Throw in the development of guys like Angus McKenna and Harry Butler, as we touched on before, and that side's looking pretty scary. But yeah, as we touched on, Natte's got the side that can beat them, and I think they've got a lot of good players that if they step up, they can really take it to them.
All right, and very briefly, mate, who is your tip for this important grand final?
It's hard to go past Carisbrook, I think. I think what we'll see is both sides being pretty even for probably the first half of the game, and I think Carisbrook will just be too strong in the day, and they'll carry it out in the second half and maybe win by 5 to 6 goals.
I think that would probably be a fitting result as well, given how well Natte have played too. And I think they'll obviously want to win, but from a neutral supporters perspective, we would love to see a good tight tussle, which we saw last year, which is fantastic. Hopefully the Swans can do that. Who knows? Given the powerhouse of Navarre had been for so many years, maybe this is the chance for the Swans to actually cause a bit of I shouldn't say an upset, but sort of buck the trend a little bit and maybe come from behind and pull off a big win here.
Yeah, exactly right. And they are the only side that have beaten them this year, and anything can happen on grand final day, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if Natte got up.
Absolutely. Well, make sure you get your trackside down to Princes Park this weekend. We've got a 2:45 kickoff.
2:35 kickoff for this senior football, but get down there nice and early, and you can catch some junior footy as well, and watch the reserves and even some netball if you like.
Absolutely. Well, thanks to our friends at the Bendigo Bank, and thanks to you, Mitchy, for all the support you've shown this year. We've seen our ratings go skyrocketing. And all the great work that you and the team have done throughout 2018 has been nothing short of inspiring. Lifted the league up to another outstanding level. Wish you all the best on the big day, mate, and we wish everyone else all the best on grand final day.
Thanks, Yeendy.